Right now at 5, an incident on campus leads local authorities racing to protect students.
And as we start the Labor Day weekend, we have some dry air over us, but how long is that going to last? I'll have the forecast.
Plus, Pittsburgh police look for a person of interest in a homicide that happened on August 20th.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning, 4 states, and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. The time now is 5:01 a.m. I'm Caitlin O'Shaughnessy.
And I'm meteorologist Sam Lane, standing in for the vacationing or taking the day off Chris Warner.
Yes, you are.
Hopefully he's enjoying himself.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of our viewers are going to be enjoying themselves this Labor Day weekend.
I think so.
Right?
I think a lot of people have plans, especially floating down the river and going to the area lakes, and we're going to take a look at that. And we have lots of dry air to be talking about as well, but we might see some rain chances increasing as we head towards the weekend. But let's take a look at the forecast. Right now we have the satellite water vapor loop on, and you can see that there's a lot of dry air in our area. That's indicated by the orangish color here. So we're still under the influence of dry air, but there is an upper level low over northern Louisiana and western Mississippi. That's going to have an influence on our weather as we go through the weekend. You can see lots of tropical moisture across the deep south this morning. Your UV index looks like this. We're going to be on the high side today again, 8 on the scale, which means about 20 to 25 minutes. So make sure that you're going to be taking the precautions if you are going to be outside for any length of time. Also, we're going to be dealing with a lot of allergies. I know a lot of folks are suffering from the ragweed, and that's going to be on the high side of the scale as well. 11 out of 12, and tomorrow it's going to be about the same. So your afternoon looks like this. Mostly sunny skies with temperatures warming into the 80s as we head through the afternoon hours. And if you are heading out to the lakes, here's a look at it. Elk City right now is about 4.5 feet below where it's supposed to be. Water temperature of 82. Grand Lake is looking better at 1 foot below normal, and over at Table Rock, they're about the same, 1.6 below normal, and Stockton is way below those. So if you're heading out to Stockton, make sure that you are taking extra precautions as it's about 4.8 feet below where it should be. Looking down the lane, we do have some changes in our forecast. We're going to have a dry weekend for the most part, but increasing humidity and also increasing storm chances as we go into early next week with above normal temperatures. And I'll break all that down for you in more detail in just a little bit. Caitlin?
A person of interest in a homicide which occurred earlier this month. On August 20th, law enforcement officers were dispatched to 202 North Locust Street in Pittsburgh in reference to a shooting outside of a bar. According to a report, Justin Krogan of Pittsburgh was found shot and later died of his injuries. Authorities have not publicly named the person of interest. Fire swept through a home in Neosho, Missouri yesterday afternoon. The call came in at around 1:30 from the 1800 block of Rachel Drive. Flames had already breached the roof when responders arrived. Authorities say everyone was safely out of the house and no firefighters were injured. They say the home was a total loss. And PSU campus police respond to an incident involving a firearm. The incident occurred last night near the intersection of Ford and Homer. Police say the aggressor and all victims are students at Pittsburgh State University. Authorities arrested a suspect near Carney Smith Stadium shortly after the incident, but they have not yet filed formal charges in the case. And the trial will go forward for a Missouri man accused of shooting a Kansas City teenager on his front porch. That's when the judge decided yesterday after hearing testimony and viewing evidence in the case during a hearing. Andrew Lester has pleaded not guilty to 2 felony assault charges. Lester is accused of shooting 16-year-old Ralph Yarl in April when the teen knocked on the wrong door while trying to pick up his brothers. Yarl was shot twice in the head and arm, but he survived.
12 witnesses testified during today's preliminary hearing. In addition to their testimony, multiple exhibits were admitted into evidence. These included recordings of 911 phone calls made by neighbors, photos of the scene, and a recording of the defendant's call to 911. After reviewing all the evidence presented in court, the judge found the state had met its burden and set the case to circuit court where a trial can happen.
Lester will be back in court September 20th for an arraignment. And businesses from Thayer, Kansas are struggling with the impacts of road work. Some report losing up to 75% of their income. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has a story.
Brian Schutz and Tracy Harbers share a similar concern. They're not seeing the businesses they manage getting as many people through the doors as they used to. The reason? Construction on US 169.
They can get here, but they go a long way around, out of the way to get here. People down south and east of here has to literally go around through Parsons and up by Erie and then back around on 47 and then back down to Thayer.
At the beginning of August, the Kansas Department of Transportation closed US 169 to traffic from Thayer South to US 400 to add passing lanes and replace the mainline pavement. As most of Thayer's business clients come out of town, the managers are seeing a considerable decrease in their income.
There's times I go without a paycheck, so the other employees, we don't have to lay them off. That way they can provide.
I really need the steakhouse stay open for our town and for my employees. We're going to lose money. There's no doubt about it for the next 2 or 3 months.
Clients are not the only ones not showing up to the city. Suppliers are also not going.
We have not had any of that bread for 3 to 4 weeks.
According to the KDOT area engineer, the construction timeline is going as planned. With that, the highway should be reopened by the end of October.
The city clerk fears the impact of the road closure will last longer than the maintenance itself.
I think we're going to take a hit probably for a little while after, and then until everybody finally figures out we're back open, then I think we'll even back out.
Tracy Harbers shares the concern.
I don't want to be a ghost town. I want to keep Thayer the way it is and just keep continuing to grow.
Students are also being affected by the construction as many go to Cherryville for high school.
It typically would take our kids that go from Thayer to Cherryville 20 minutes, say, roughly to get to school. Now it takes like 45 to 50 minutes for them to be able to get to and from school.
While understanding the challenges that might lie ahead, this small town in Kansas is hopeful.
Once the road gets back open, it'll just be that much better.
In Thayer, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
This weekend is Thayer's homecoming weekend. The city hopes the construction doesn't affect attendance in their biggest celebration of the year. The Jasper County Treatment Court yesterday helped raise awareness of a rising number of overdoses. They hosted a walk from the courts building to the Recovery Outreach Community Center.
There's so many overdoses that are happening today, and people don't realize what's in their drugs, what's being mixed in their drugs, and it's happening young kids all the way up to older, adults, and it's just something that the community needs to be aware of, and the importance of Narcan, of how it could save a life.
After the walk, the court hosted a training on how to use Narcan. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Pittsburgh State University played at Washburn last night for its opening game. We'll have the results of that game in sports. Plus, did you know that overdoses from counterfeit pills are on the rise? We'll have more details in Health Watch. And it's almost Labor Day. We'll have what kind of weather you can expect over this holiday weekend. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KO Morning News. College football season is officially here now in the 4 states, and of course that means the place to be is Kearney Smith Stadium on the campus of Pittsburgh State University. Pitt State opening the season at home on Thursday night against Washburn. Both offenses were rusty to start, 0-0 at the start of the second quarter. Chad Dodson finds All-American tight end Devon Garrison on 4th and 1 for a pickup of 28 yards into the red zone. PSU offense stalls just outside of the end zone, though. First points of the year come on a 23-yard Austin Schmidt field goal. Same score, 2 minutes until the halftime, and Kellen Simoncic, sacked by Jack Barkley, forces Washburn out of the field goal range. and Pittsburgh State threatens to take a 2-score lead before halftime, but Chad Dodson is sacked by Phoenix Smith, and the Gorillas have to settle for 3, take a 6-0 lead into the half. The Pittsburgh State defense comes out of the halftime locker room, though, ready to play. First drive of the third quarter, Antoine Nunn Jr. gets the interception, and that gets PSU up to Washburn's 27-yard line. And then 4 plays later, Chad Dodson calls his own number on a quarterback sneak, and the first touchdown of the year for the Gorillas. Each offense wakes up a little in the second half. Pittsburgh State holds on a 34-7 lead with 6 minutes left. And Missouri Southern also at home last night, hoping for a big upset, facing the 5th-ranked team in the nation in Northwestern Missouri State. Missouri Southern opening their season with the 5th-ranked Northwestern Missouri State Bearcats. And first drive of the season for MMSU, Luke Sampson finds David Bethune for a 64-yard touchdown. Big-time play for the Lions to open up their season with a strike. And as we go into the second quarter now, same score, Sampson scrambling around and finds Deontay Campbell for the touchdown. MSSU raising eyebrows early. And then later in the second quarter, Lions lead 14-7. And this is the catch of the night. Ezekiel Lang with a fantastic grab. That leads to a 46-yard field goal, and the Lions go up 17-7. And then some trickery from the Northwest. They recover their own onside kick, and that leads to an easy Bearcats touchdown. Jay Harris scores on that. And then Missouri Southern held its own for a while, but gets outscored 7-0 in the fourth, and so they fall to 0-1 on the season with a 31-24 final. High school football also happening, a few Missouri teams in action. One of them, Joplin, coming off a big week, 1 win on the road down in Branson. The Eagles improved to 2-0 on the young season with a 28-14 home win over Willard tonight. Not quite as close, or actually last night, not quite as close as the final score might tell you. The Tigers were trailing by 3 touchdowns and then scored on the final play. Torrin Jones scores 3 touchdowns in the win for Joplin, and Chavis Coleman comes up with a big second half interception. Another high school football game happening in the 4 states, Mount Vernon all over Monette. And the Mountaineers moved to 2-0 on the young season after a 10-point win on the road at McDonald County last week. The Cubs fall to 0-2 on the year, and Mount Vernon stays at home next week, hosting Aurora tonight. Still to come, Canada sends out a warning to its LGBTQ plus citizens about traveling to the United States. Plus, we're going to have a check of the 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News rolls on, so stay with us. All right, looking pretty good out there this morning in Seneca, Missouri at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Lots of fair conditions this morning across the area. Yesterday, we made it up to 88 degrees after starting at a cool 60 degrees. And that was right around normal, a little bit below on the low and just slightly above for the high. We're still about 10 inches behind on the rainfall. So let's take a look at the month of August. The average high was 91.8. The average low was 70. So overall for the month, we were 80.9, which was about 2 degrees above normal. And that ended up making August the 23rd warmest August in Joplin history. So not too bad. It could have been much worse. Rain not anywhere to be found, anywhere across the area this morning. Instead, we're finding comfortable temperatures. Look at this, 59 in Iola, same thing in Fort Scott. So another cool morning, 60 in Joplin, 60 over in Monette as well. Some 60s down to the south in Cassville, where they're currently 58 degrees on the hour. Dew points, they're still low, generally in the 50s, and that's good because that allows the temperatures to feel more comfortable out there. When you have dew points in the 50s and low 50s, it's refreshing and pleasant, and we're going to continue that for at least another day or two, and then we're going to see the humidity start to increase. Rain chances are going to remain low for the next 36 hours, but as we go into the weekend, we're going to be watching this upper level low. It's moving towards the west, and that's going to get underneath this ridge of high pressure. And as it goes into Monday, this is going to start lifting towards the north. And as it does, it's going to bring up some moisture and also increasing the chances of showers and storms, especially as we go into the early part of next week. But most of the weekend looks pretty dry across the area. Now, as we go into Wednesday, from Monday until Wednesday, the models are indicating that there could be a good swath of rain, especially up towards the north, with some places picking up 1.5 inches or so. So that would certainly be welcome to help alleviate the drought a little bit, but out towards the west, amounts are expected to be on the lighter side. So your forecast looks like this. Today, mostly sunny with scattered clouds. Temperatures in the upper 80s to lower 90s. And then as we go into Saturday morning, we're going to see lows again in the 50s, especially up to the north, 60s elsewhere. And then Saturday afternoon looking pretty nice as well. Temperatures around 90 degrees, especially in southeastern Kansas. Then the clouds are going to start to increase as we go into Sunday morning as the moisture increases too, with lows in the 60s. And then as we go into Sunday afternoon, maybe an isolated storm, but not really a big chance, with lows or actually highs in the 90s. And then on Monday morning, lows in the 70s. And over the next 7 days, we're going to see the chances of rain increasing as we go into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, with temperatures in the 90s. And then as we go into the rest part of the week, again, temperatures in the 90s with isolated storms, especially on Friday into next weekend. But lows are going to be pretty mild, generally in the 60s and the 70s. Stay with us because we have more news and weather right after the break.
Topping Health Watch this morning, U.S. schools are dealing with a shortage of mental health support staff amid a growing need. This has some institutions getting creative. The Washington Post reports the nation needs 77,000 more school counselors and almost as many psychologists. That's in addition to a shortage of tens of thousands of school social workers. And the problem is getting worse because the field is experiencing attrition. To help, some universities are expanding or modifying their counseling programs. California and other states are offering scholarships. And Chicago Public Schools is training nurses to address mental health. Overdose deaths from the counterfeit pills are on the rise, especially among younger adults. That is according to a new report published Thursday by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The CDC data shows that the number of people who have overdosed and died from counterfeit pills more than doubled in recent years. The report also says that illegally manufactured fentanyl was detected in nearly all overdose deaths involving counterfeit pills. According to the CDC, more than half of the deaths occurred in people under the age of 35. Hispanics were also found to be more at risk, and overdose deaths were consistently most common in western states. Let's look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. We're looking at a beautiful day with temperatures rising into the 80s by around lunchtime, so a great day to enjoy outdoors. 86 this afternoon and around 87 degrees for your high. And as we head towards the weekend, I know a lot of folks are going to be planning outdoors. It's going to be dry for the most part, but we are going to see increasing humidity, and also early next week we're going to see increasing storm chances. And overall, we're going to see above normal temperatures, but all in all, not a bad weekend, especially if you have outdoor plans and if you are traveling. Stay with us because we have more news and weather right after this.
Right now at 5:30, Freeman Hospital hosts a disaster seminar.
No disasters to speak of in the 4 states. We're looking at some drier conditions over us. We'll have your complete Labor Day forecast.
Plus, after new evidence is found linking the BTK killer to other murders, his daughter speaks out for the first time.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning, 4 states, and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. The time now is 5:28 a.m. I'm Caitlin O'Shaughnessy.
And I'm meteorologist Sam Lane, standing in for Chris Warner this morning. And it's a beautiful morning out there.
That it
is. A little bit cool when I stepped out this morning.
It really
I almost
was
thought about
nice.
getting a jacket.
Yes, it almost felt fall-like.
That's right. With the exactly first day of September, and people are starting to think about fall. And rightly so, as we see cool temperatures this morning and also dry conditions. Let's take a look at the water vapor loop. We have lots of dry air still sitting over us, and all the moisture has been shoved down to the south, of course, in the deep south. And this upper level low that's over Louisiana, Mississippi, that's going to retrograde across Texas over the weekend, and that's going to spell some changes in our forecast, and we'll get to that in a moment. But this afternoon, the UV index looks like this, 8, which is a high on the scale, about 20 to 25 minutes of burn time. So make sure that if you are outdoors, make sure you have the hat, the sunscreen, as well as the sunglasses, and find the shade if you can and limit your time outdoors. And also the allergies are very high, 11 on the scale, and most of that is ragweed, which a lot of folks are allergic to, chenopod, and nettle. And it's going to continue that way right on through the weekend until we get some rain in here. Speaking of rain, we're not going to see any today. We're going to see temperatures rising into the 80s, around 87 degrees for your afternoon high with mostly fair skies. And looking down the lane, we have a dry weekend ahead, but we do have some rain chances coming up too, and I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit.
Well, Joplin has chosen its next police chief. The city yesterday announced Rich Pearson will take the position. Pearson is currently captain of the Jefferson County Public School System Police Department in Louisville, Kentucky. He served 22 years in the Louisville Metro Police Department and taught in the Criminal Justice Department of Ivy Tech Community College in Sellersburg, Indiana. Pearson's first day on the job will be December 18th. A newspaper reporter in Kansas has filed a federal lawsuit over a controversial search and seizure of her newsroom. Marion County Record reporter Debbie Groover has accused Marion Police Chief Gideon Cody of violating her rights. In a sworn statement, Cody suggested the raid was necessary to see if information about the driving records of a local restaurant owner had been obtained illegally. Claims the paper has denied that in the complaint, Groover said her work computer was taken during the search. She also said Cody physically seized her personal cell phone, which was not included in the warrant. Groover believes she was targeted because she had been investigating allegations of misconduct against Cody. The police chief has not yet commented on the lawsuit. And the daughter of serial killer Dennis Rader speaks out for the first time since new evidence was discovered that authorities claim may connect Rader to other killings. Leon Purvis has the details.
I go, "Is it 10, Dad?" And he goes, 10. And he rolls that 0.
Carrie Ralston recently asked her father, Dennis Rader, known as serial killer BTK, directly if he killed more than 10 people. She explains how she interpreted the roll of the 0.
And now I'm thinking, good God, man, how many times are you rolling that 0? Because I think you're trying to tell me it's more than 10.
After 18 years behind bars and convicted of killing 10 people, there's still a human element to Rader.
He was literally sobbing. He reached out for me. He hugged me. He kissed me.
Last week, Oklahoma investigators dug up the ground where Rader's Park City home once stood. They say they are 100% sure the killer had something to do with 16-year-old Cynthia Kinney's 1976 disappearance. Detectives also think he may have something to do with the murder of 22-year-old Shauna Garber in 1990.
And I said, "Hey, what do you think happened to Garber?" And it was like that dad mask came off, and it was like BTK.
Ralston doesn't believe her father.
It's not Dad claiming these. He is telling me directly that he didn't do these, and he's dodging. He's making up alibis. He's lying to my face.
When investigators found evidence at her family's former Park City home, Ralston says her father was speechless.
Interestingly enough, guys, he has not said one word since we dug up his precious yard. I think that's pretty telling. Like, I think he's shocked into muteness after 50 years.
Rader pleaded guilty in 2005 to 10 murders committed in the Wichita area from 1974 to 1991. He is serving 10 life sentences in prison. Carrie Rawson spoke during a 2-hour podcast, Surviving the Survivor. A K-State program encourages students across the Sunflower State to leap into STEM studies. Project LEAPS, an acronym for Learning, Exploration, and Application for Prospective Engineering Students, is a collaborative project. It's made possible by a U.S. Department of Defense grant for nearly $2.7 million. It'll benefit about 500 middle and high school students and 53 educators by the end of 2023. The project aims to help mentor and promote STEM degrees and careers to 7th through 12th grade students throughout the state. This is the second year of the grant. And the city of Joplin releases a study on pedestrian safety. The study found an average of more than 15 crashes involving pedestrians per year over the last 4 years. The study also found at least one fatality every year, and it included 3 categories for recommendations to reduce these numbers: improved education, enforcement, and engineering. The Joplin City Council will vote on Tuesday whether to adopt the recommendations. We've provided a link to the full study on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Yesterday, Freeman hosted a disaster seminar. The healthcare group recently hosted a similar session covering how to respond to a disaster, but yesterday's session focused on how to prepare for one.
So we're having to re-educate people to understand what could happen. And as we talked about Joplin, it's not just locally here, the tornado. They have used the lessons learned from Joplin all across the country and the world.
The seminar wrapped at 5 yesterday. Pittsburgh State aims to attract more future healthcare workers by opening a simulation hospital. The $8 million addition was founded by private donors. Students will be able to work on a variety of AI-made patients performing different procedures. The 10,000 square feet simulation hospital includes preparation rooms, waiting areas, and more environments to immerse students and prepare them for the real deal.
It is so much different than a real patient, but I also think it's so much alike that I'm super excited to be able to use it, and hopefully it'll better my understanding of real patients whenever the time comes.
Originally, the nursing school held approximately 65 students. Now it can accommodate 120. Businesses from Thayer, Kansas are struggling with the impacts of road work. Some report losing up to 75% of their income. At the beginning of August, the Kansas Department of Transportation closed US 169 to traffic from Thayer south to US 400 to add passing lanes and replace the mainline pavement. Because of the construction, it takes longer for clients coming from other cities to get to the town, and students are also being affected as many go to Cherryvale for high school.
We've definitely slowed down business-wise. I mean, throughout the whole town. It's just that with the highway shut down, I mean, we kind of expect that. It's a little harder to get to us, so.
There's times I go without a paycheck, so the other employees, we don't have to lay them off. That way they can provide.
According to KDOT, the construction is progressing as planned. With that, it should be concluded on October 29th. This weekend is Thayer's homecoming weekend, and the city hopes that the construction doesn't affect attendance at their biggest celebration of the year. Pitt State football yesterday took on the Washburn Ichabods for their first game of the season. But before that, Gorilla fans got together for a tailgate party. Gorilla Fest featured bounce houses, balloons, face and hair painting, live music, and food. Franklin Technology Center students are taking on a huge project. The students will be a part of the renovation of the Bullseye building in downtown Joplin. This project offers students the chance to draw up plans, perform inspection, and create design to revitalize this historic downtown building.
It is vital. You know, I can spend all day, every day standing in front of the class, talking about it in theory, giving them assignments that, oh, the teacher is the one that's going to be grading this. But with something like this, they actually have to go through all the hoops. They find out what it's really like. And it's just an awesome opportunity for them to see, is this something worth doing?
Students will keep track of the renovation process throughout the entire school year. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. We'll take you to a hospital where a nurse is still going strong in her career despite being 90 years old. Plus, have you ever wondered what mummification balm smells like? Well, you may have a chance to find out. We'll have the latest, and you're watching the KOAM Morning News. But first, here's a live look from Pittsburgh High School. We'll be right back after the break. Topping World Watch, a new study suggests humans nearly didn't exist before our ancestors almost died out. Researchers in China found evidence suggesting the population experienced a massive crash following drastic climate change about 930,000 years ago. Nearly 99% of human ancestors were reportedly lost at the beginning of that period, known as bottleneck. It lasted over 100,000 years, threatening extinction with just under 1,300 left to breed. Some outside experts, however, say they're skeptical of the novel statistical methods that the researchers used for the study. Canada has issued a warning to its LGBTQ citizens about traveling to the U.S. The warning says Canadians should be aware of certain state laws that may affect LGBTQ people. Though it doesn't single out any one state's laws, the Canadian alert references laws in general. Those include bans on drag shows, restrictions on gender-affirming care, and participation in sporting events. The advisory also links to broader advice on laws that criminalize same-sex activities or target people based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Scientists have decoded an ancient aroma by identifying the ingredients used in Egyptian mummification bombs, and they're resurrected the scent. If you can take a whiff of it, and if you're willing to travel to a museum in Denmark, where it will be in an upcoming exhibit, researchers are calling it a scent of eternity and the scent of eternal life. The fragrance is based on beeswax, plant oils, and tree resins found within bombs used more than 3,500 years ago to preserve a noble woman. Her vital organs were placed in jars that were discovered in Egypt's Valley of the Kings in 1900. And at least 74 people are dead, including 12 children, and dozens more hurt after a fire ripped through a 5-story building overnight in Johannesburg, South Africa. Rescue teams are now searching for others possibly still trapped inside. Tina Cross reports from London.
Eyewitness video shows crowds of South Africans gathered outside the 5-story building in Johannesburg overnight as it went up in flames. Dense plumes of smoke could be seen rising over the rooftop of the rundown apartment building, mostly occupied by people who are homeless.
First, I'm losing my sister.
This resident says his sister died in the flames. His young niece was thrown from the building, and it saved her life.
The people, they just take the daughter on while it was what? On the air.
Many of the victims were found piled up near a security gate that was locked at the time, preventing them from escaping.
A lot of people died because of the smoke, because there was a lot of pressure at the gates. Some of the gates were closed.
Fire officials combing through the floors say they found shack-like partitions inside the various apartments, indicating possible overcrowding.
We'll be moving floor by floor to make sure that we clear all the floors.
Authorities say the abandoned building had likely been taken over by criminal cartels who drew a weekly rent from African migrants and struggling South Africans.
An incident like this where buildings are hijacked, it needs all of us collectively to work together to prevent what has happened today.
The cause of the fire is not confirmed, but initial evidence suggests it may have started from a candle as people tried to keep warm in the winter cold. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
The Embassy for Human Settlements in South Africa says it's working to provide temporary shelter for survivors who are now displaced. Let's look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, and it's a beautiful morning out there, a little bit on the cool side, including Seneca, Missouri with Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, looking pretty nice down that way. Yesterday we made it up into the 80s. 88 was the high, starting out at 60 for the low, which was below normal and only 1 degree above normal on the high. And of course we're way behind on the rainfall for the year, almost 10 inches. And so we need some rainfall desperately. And taking a look back at the month of August, we started off really hot with temperatures over 100 degrees. Then we went through a cool spell, so that felt nice. But then we ended up the month again above normal with several days above 100 degrees. And so for overall for the month, we were about 2 degrees above normal, which makes it the 23rd warmest August in Joplin history. Radar right now is clear across the entire area, nothing really going on, and we're not expecting anything really major until we get into about Monday. But in the meantime, we're going to see temperatures very nice this morning in the upper 50s up to the north, like Stockton with 58, 60 in Pittsburgh and in Carthage, a little bit warmer in Independence and Nowata, where they're currently sitting at 64 degrees. Dew points, they're low, and that's what's making it feel so comfortable in the afternoons. Even though we get in the upper 80s and lower 90s, these lower dew points is making it feel a lot better out there. 53 right now, the dew point in Carthage. Starting to see some 60s showing up down in Oklahoma, but we're going to have to wait till the weekend ends before we really start to see the humidity coming back. In the meantime, it's going to be refreshing and pleasant out there as far as that goes. Rain chances are going to be pretty close to zero for the next 36 hours, and that's all because we're under the influence of this ridge of high pressure, and that's bringing in these dry northeasterly winds, and that will continue until we go into about Sunday, and then notice the winds are going to start coming out of the south and east, and that means The moisture is going to be increasing and the rain chances are going to be increasing, especially starting Monday, Labor Day, but really on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's when the best chance of rain is going to start moving in. In fact, some areas could see close to an inch or more, especially up towards the north. But today, no rainfall. Temperatures in the upper 80s and lower 90s. And then as we go into tonight, cool once again, upper 50s and lower 60s. And then as we go into Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, highs in the upper 80s to lower 90s. And then Sunday morning, we'll start to see the winds out of the south. So we'll see milder conditions with lows in the 60s. And then Sunday afternoon, maybe an isolated storm, mainly down to the south, but highs will be in the low to mid 90s across the area. Then Monday morning, the moisture really starts to increase and lows in the 70s. And over the next 7 days, that's when we're going to see the rain chances increase, especially on Monday, but more so on Tuesday and Wednesday, with a 40% chance of scattered afternoon thunderstorms. Some of those storms could be strong, especially on Wednesday. And then if we take a look further out, it still stays warm, but the rain chances start to decrease just a little bit. We'll be right back with more news and weather. But first, let's take a live look at Pittsburgh High School in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
A nurse in Arizona is proving that when it comes to taking care of others, age is nothing but a number. At age 90, Ellie Ucci is still attending to patients. Danielle Miller takes us to meet this exceptional nurse.
Good morning, Katrina. Hi. How are you? How was your night?
Eleanor Ucci, or Ellie, as she's called here at Banner Gateway, is doing what she does every day. Checking on her patients and their brand new babies. Ellie started her nursing career in 1954, and now, at 90 years old, she's still going strong.
I nurture people, and that's my forte. That's what makes me going. I'm very, very fortunate in life because I get to love what I do and do what I love.
Ellie, who says she's always wanted to be a nurse from a young age, has worked in all fields of nursing.
Baby
She now works in the postpartum unit of labor and delivery. This has been one of her favorite journeys so far.
You know what, the thing that I love the most? When I hear a little sibling walking down the hall, the pitter-patter of their feet, and I hear them go, "Where's Mommy?" That breaks, oh my God, it gets to me like you can't believe. And I hear their little voices say, "Brother, sister, baby."
And while most of her friends retired when medicine went digital, Ellie said, no way.
I'm not going to let that beat me down. I'm going to conquer you, and I did, okay? I can computerize with the best of them, okay? Sometime even better.
As far as her future, she says she has no date for retirement in mind.
I'm going to keep doing it until God says, okay, Ellie, this is time. I tell the girls I work with, if you see me slipping, tell me, because I want to go out on top.
On top, she definitely will.
That's my first, yeah. Oh my God. Could you imagine that? 1954, this is what I look like. How about that? A real nurse with a cap. We don't wear caps anymore.
Just incredible, 90 years old and still serving and helping others. Well, stick around, we have more news coming up right after the break. West Point just opened a time capsule that's almost 2 centuries old, and the process was kind of awkward. On Monday, the Military Academy live streamed a ceremony for the opening of the capsule, but when the superintendent looked inside, he saw nothing. At least that's what it seemed like at the time. Now West Point says an Erie Canal commemorative medal and some coins were hidden in dirt inside the container. They include a Liberty dollar, 50-cent piece, quarter, dime, nickel, and penny, dated as early as 1795. It's every collector's dream, no matter what you like to buy, finding something hugely valuable for dirt cheap. A painting one woman bought for $4 at a New Hampshire thrift store back in 2017 may be worth $250,000. The woman didn't even want the painting by N.C. Wyeth. She was actually just buying it for the frame. But she ended up hanging it in her house anyway, then storing it for a while. Eventually, the woman posted it to a Facebook group called Things Found in Walls. Comments there led her to a curator who identified it as an authentic N.C. Wyeth painting valued at around $250,000. And hunger is real even here in America. And Friday is a good day to keep that in mind because it is National Food Bank Day, observed every year on the first day of September. According to nationalfooddaycalendar.com, food banks in the U.S. assist some of the 42 million people who struggle to put food on the table. You can observe National Food Bank Day by making a donation to your local food bank, and they take donations of cash and non-perishable items like canned foods every day and various fresh food items based on need.
All right, we're looking at a great afternoon across the area with temperatures rising into the upper 80s and lower 90s. So if you're heading out this morning, just be aware of that. Then as we go into tonight, the dry air still in place is going to allow temperatures to fall into the upper 50s, especially up to the north and east, and lower 60s elsewhere with light and variable winds. And then tomorrow, as we start the Labor Day weekend, we're looking at temperatures again, upper 80s to lower 90s, especially in southeastern Kansas. And then Saturday night into Sunday morning, we're going to see lows in the mid 60s with south winds increasing the moisture a little bit. Sunday afternoon, maybe an isolated storm, but still temperatures in the 90s across the area. And then Monday morning, that moisture will really increase with lows in the 70s. And over the next 7 days, we're looking at some storm chances as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday especially, and Thursday as well. We'll be back with more after this.
Right now at 6, Pittsburgh police are seeking a person of interest in a homicide which occurred earlier this month.
And we're looking at dry air over us right now, but what does the weekend look like? We'll have the complete Labor Day forecast for you.
Plus, an incident involving a firearm on campus leaves authorities racing to protect students. We'll have the details.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning, 4 states, and welcome to the KOAM
Well, there we are.
Morning News. The time now is 6 a.m. I'm Caitlin O'Shaughnessy.
And I'm meteorologist Sam Lane, standing in for the vacationing Chris Warner.
Yes, but we're happy to have you here. Sam, it's Labor Day weekend, so I bet a lot of people are getting ready for either a fun road trip or doing something to enjoy this 3-day
Floating
weekend.
down the river, going to the lakes.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of folks are headed towards that. And it looks like it's going to be nice weather starting today with temperatures in the upper 80s and lower 90s. Right now we're looking at the water vapor loop. We have a lot of dry air over us right now. You can see that with the orange color here in Texas and across Oklahoma, and then it extends on over into the Delmarva area. Lots of tropical moisture in the southeast right now, but notice this little curl to the clouds and the moisture. That's an upper level low. That's going to impact our weather as we go into the early part of next week. But in the meantime, we're going to be seeing a UV index today of 8, which is on the high side, and that means about 20 to 25 minutes before you start to burn. So make sure that you're taking the proper cautions, especially this weekend. If you're going to be going out and about, make sure that you're using plenty of sunscreen. Also, you might want to take along the Kleenex because we are dealing with lots of allergies. A lot of folks are dealing with the ragweed, which they're allergic to, and it's going to be high again today and tomorrow as we go through the weekend. And taking a look this afternoon, we're going to see mostly sunny skies with temperatures rising through the 80s to around a high of 87 degrees under mostly fair skies. And looking down the lane, we have a dry weekend for the most part, and then we're going to see increasing humidity, and as a result of the increasing humidity, we're going to see storm chances increasing as well and above normal temperatures. And I'll spell all that out for you in just a little bit. Caitlin?
Thanks, Sam. Well, Pittsburgh police are seeking a person of interest in a homicide which occurred earlier this month. On August 20th, law enforcement officers were dispatched to 202 North Locust Street in Pittsburgh in reference to a shooting outside of a bar. According to the report, Justin Krogan of Pittsburgh was found shot and later died of his injuries. Authorities have not publicly named the person of interest. And fire swept through a home in Neosho, Missouri yesterday afternoon. The call came in at around 1:30 from 1800 block of Rachel Drive. Flames had already breached the roof when responders arrived. Authorities say everyone was safely out of the house and no firefighters were injured. They say the home was a total loss. PSU campus police responded to an incident involving a firearm. The incident occurred last night near the intersection of Ford and Homer. Police say the aggressor and all victims are students at Pittsburgh State University. Authorities arrested a suspect near Carney Smith Stadium after the incident, but they have not yet filed formal charges in the case. The trial will go forward for a Missouri man accused of shooting a Kansas City teenager on his front step. That's what the judge decided yesterday after hearing testimony and viewing evidence in the case during a hearing. Andrew Lester has pleaded not guilty to 2 felony assault charges. Lester's accused of shooting 16-year-old Ralph Yarl in April when the teen knocked on the wrong door while trying to pick up his brothers. Yarwell was shot twice in the head and arm, but he survived.
12 witnesses testified during today's preliminary hearing. In addition to their testimony, multiple exhibits were admitted into evidence. These included recordings of 911 phone calls made by neighbors, photos of the scene, and a recording of the defendant's call to 911.
Lester will be back in court September 20th for an arraignment. A newspaper reporter in Kansas has filed a federal lawsuit over a controversial search and seizure of her newsroom. Marion County Record reporter Debbie Gruber has accused Marion Police Chief Gideon Cody of violating her rights. In a sworn statement, Cody suggested the raid was necessary to see if information about the driving records of a local restaurant owner had been obtained illegally. And the complaint, Gruber said that her work computer was taken during the search. She also said Cody physically seized her personal cell phone, which was not included in the warrant. Gruber believes she was targeted because she had been investigating allegations of misconduct against Cody. The police chief has not yet commented on the lawsuit. And to be the first to see breaking news and weather and sports, download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. High school students who are a part of the Franklin Technology Center program bringing a downtown Joplin building back to life. KOAM's Anthony Saviello has a story.
216 Commercial Alley, otherwise known as the Bullseye Building in downtown Joplin, has seen better days.
It's a strange feeling to just be working in this.
It's also real dark, so we got to keep turning on our flashlights to see the measurements and stuff.
I got my phone flashlight
Makes it
on.
just a little bit difficult to do work.
It's like awkward and, as he said, a little bit creepy.
Luckily, a few students in the area are getting to work to put this building back on target.
We get our students actual hands-on, real-world, work-based experience. They're going to be doing the heavy lifting. They will draw the plans that get submitted to the city. They will interact with the client and the contractor. They will be the ones answering questions. We really want them to find out what a day in the life of an architect is actually like.
Casey Tullis is an instructor at Franklin Technology Center. He's also the instructor leading these students on this endeavor.
A quarter of them, it's okay to say they're all the same. It's okay to say this is the typical spacing.
He has high praise and expectations for them. After all, they have quite the project on their hands.
They will do inspections just like an architect would to come in and make sure that the plans are being followed. And if they're not being followed, they'll have to file the paperwork to keep track of all of that.
The owner of the building, Terry Donaldson, shares Casey's excitement for these students as they embark on this project, hoping that this building is able to once again show some life and hopefully not just be used for target practice.
So there's no doubt these kids are going to have their hands full this year. But once this building is done, it's sure to be the talk of the town. Reporting in Joplin, I'm Anthony Saviello, KOAM News.
The renovation is going to continue throughout the school year. The hope will be for students to have accomplished their goals and plans by the end of the school year. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Former President Donald Trump took to the next step in the sprawling legal case, accusing him of trying to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. Plus, the U.S. government has filed a motion to stop an expedition planned for next year to recover items from the Titanic. And meteorologist Sam Lane returns with another look at your Friday forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from Pittsburgh High School. Topping Nation Watch this morning, the cleanup is underway from Idalia's path of destruction across the southeast. In Florida, some residents have returned to find their homes and businesses completely wiped out. The president has signed a major disaster declaration for Florida, and he plans to travel there to get a first-hand look at the devastation. CBS News correspondent Jared Hill is in North Carolina, where the storm flooded communities.
just thank God nobody died.
Third-generation shrimp farmer Buddy Ellison held back tears in Florida as he surveyed the ruins of his family's business in Horseshoe Beach.
The actual stuff that was in there, money, it won't be rebuilt. It can't rebuild it.
Floridians along the Gulf Coast are picking up the pieces after Idalia unleashed record storm surge, causing intense flooding.
Some of the residents have lost their homes, people have lost their businesses, their livelihood. We need a little bit of help.
Idalia also tore through 3 other states. Crews in Georgia cleared snapped tree limbs from roadways.
I think we got off really easy.
In South Carolina, this video shows the moment a tornado flipped a car. The driver, an expecting mother, escaped without a scratch.
I definitely feel lucky.
In southern North Carolina, cars sit submerged in massive flooding Idalia left behind. The financial toll of Idalia's path of destruction up the southeast is expected to be as high as $20 billion. During a visit to FEMA yesterday, President Biden said he'll travel to Florida on Saturday.
To the people of Florida and throughout the southeast, I'm here to make clear that our nation has your back.
National Guard and search and rescue teams are clearing debris and handing out supplies as the road to recovery begins. Jared Hill, CBS News, Morehead City, North Carolina.
Idalia is now a post-tropical cyclone churning out in the Atlantic Ocean away from the U.S. The storm is expected to hit Bermuda this weekend. And Tesla owners, listen up. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is investigating a hidden feature in the autopilot software. It can reportedly disable the safety alerts drivers get to keep their hands on the steering wheel. That hidden setting is unofficially called Elon mode. The NHTSA is demanding information from the automaker on whether drivers could try and find a way around the safety controls on Tesla's driver assist technology. In a July letter to Tesla made public this week by the NHTSA, U.S. authorities expressed their concerns the setting encourages unsafe driving behavior. The probe comes as part of a wider investigation on the software following a number of crashes allegedly attributed to the technology. This fall, 2 lawsuits against Tesla over its autopilot technology are expected to go to trial. And the U.S. government has filed a motion to stop an expedition planned for next year to recover items from the Titanic. The expedition has been organized by RMS Titanic, Inc., which has the exclusive rights to salvage artifacts from the famous shipwreck. In the federal court filing, the government cites a law that protects and preserves the shipwreck as a gravesite. It also argues the company must obtain an authorization form from the Secretary of Commerce before conducting any activity that would disturb the wreckage. This is not the first time the government has tried to block an expedition. The company announced in 2020 it wanted to recover the ship's radio. The U.S. government filed a legal challenge to stop the mission, and it ultimately never happened. Then in June, RMS Titanic announced it was planning an expedition for next year, but does not intend to seek a permit. The filing has nothing to do with the Titan submersible tragedy, which imploded near the Titanic earlier this summer. All 5 people on board were killed. And the Justice Department says its election threats task force has charged 14 cases involving threats against the election community, securing 9 convictions. The task force was created in June 2021 after a sharp increase in threats against election workers. Guilty pleas were secured Thursday in 2 separate cases involving threats against election workers in Arizona and Georgia. They come on to the heels of recent sentencings in the other 2 cases. The DOJ says an Iowa man was sentenced in Arizona Monday to 2.5 years in prison for sending threatening communications to an election official on the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, and then Attorney General of Arizona. And earlier this month, a Texas man was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for threats he made to an official in the Maricopa County Attorney's Office and another Maricopa County official. Former President Donald Trump took the next step in the sprawling legal case accusing him of trying to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. Reporter Skylar Henry has the latest developments.
Former President Donald Trump chose not to show up at the Georgia courthouse, using a 2-page filing to waive a formal arraignment and enter his plea of not guilty. That means the current GOP frontrunner will not have to appear for the scheduled hearing next week. And it allows him to avoid the spectacle of entering a plea on camera, just days after the release of his booking photo.
He's controlling the visual narrative. It telegraphs his desire
to tightly control the images that we see, particularly concerning these cases.
The Georgia case is Trump's fourth indictment. It accuses the former president and 18 others of scheming to subvert the will of voters. Those charges are triggering calls from the right to impeach the district attorney. Some Georgia Republicans are pushing for a special session to remove or discipline Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis. But Governor Brian Kemp, himself a Republican, forcefully rejected those calls, saying they could be unconstitutional.
In the state of Georgia, as long as I'm governor, we're going to follow the law and the Constitution, regardless of who it helps or harms politically. And in Georgia, we will not be engaging in political theater that only inflames the emotions of the moment.
Kemp has refused to endorse Trump's claims about a stolen election and says punishing the DA would create a distraction that will hurt Republicans at the ballot box. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Fulton County prosecutors have asked for an October trial date. That's a look at some of today's top national stories. Now, here's Sam Lane with a look at your forecast.
All right, thank you very much, Caitlin. We are looking at a beautiful day across the area with lots of sunshine and a high of around 87 degrees. If you're heading outdoors for lunch, 83 degrees with mostly sunny skies. That will continue into the 2 o'clock hour with 86 and 4 p.m. about 87. Looking down the lane as we head into the weekend, we're expecting dry conditions for the most part, especially on Saturday and Sunday. And then as we go into Monday, we're going to see increasing humidity. And then on Monday afternoon into Tuesday and Wednesday especially, we're going to see increasing storm chances, and some of the storms could be strong on Wednesday, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then as we take a look, the rest of the period of time, we're going to be looking at above normal temperatures as we start early part of September. And looking at the long range, it looks like those above normal temperatures are going to probably continue right on through the middle part of September. So summer definitely wants to hang on, especially this weekend, but it looks like travel plans are not going to be really interrupted by that. Stay with us because we have more news and weather right after this.
If you couldn't make it to a certain music superstar's latest mega tour, you're getting another shot, and for just the price of a movie ticket. David Daniel explains in Hollywood's Hollywood Minute.
People would come up to me and they'd be like, "You're gonna just like do a show with like all the albums in it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be called the Eras Tour. See you there."
Taylor Swift is taking her Eras Tour to the big screen. A 2-hour, 45-minute concert film documenting the singer-songwriter's record-breaking tour is due in theaters on October 13th, including AMC IMAX theaters. Hours after tickets went on sale, websites for many AMC theaters showed nearly full cinemas for opening weekend.
You have some experience with possession.
Yes, more than I'd like.
The Taylor Swift ticket sales were enough to scare off the Exorcist believer. The horror film was due out the same day, Friday the 13th of October. But after the Eras Tour announcement, Universal moved up Believer's release date 1 week to October 6th. Producer Jason Blum confirmed the news on social media, adding the hashtag Taylor wins. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Taylor absolutely wins. I'm excited to go see her Eras Tour in theaters. Now let's take it over to Sam for weather.
All right, I know a lot of folks will be heading out to the lakes this weekend, and right now Elk City is about 4.4 feet below normal. Grand Lake is doing better right now at about a foot below normal, and about the same over at Table Rock. We'll have your complete weekend forecast when we come back. And welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. And as the sun rises this morning in Seneca, Missouri at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, we can see that on the tower cam, mostly fair skies expected all afternoon. Yesterday we made it up to a high of 88 degrees starting out at 59, and the averages are 87 and 65. And of course, we are behind on the year's rainfall by about 10 inches. And for the month of August, we had an average high of 91.8, average low of 70, which you average it all out, it came out to about 80.9, which is a couple of degrees above normal. And so we ended up with the 23rd warmest August on record in Joplin, which is not too bad. However, over the summer, we've had several days of 100 plus. We had 2 back in June, 5 in July, and several in August. Hopefully we won't see any more 100-degree days, but we can be as late as September the 24th is the latest that we've been 100 degrees in Joplin. But hopefully this year we won't be tying any records like that. Rainfall is not to be found anywhere in our region this morning. Instead, we're looking at cool temperatures. 58 in Stockton right now, 57 in Iola, so just a very pleasant morning as you send the kids out to school. 60 degrees in Miami right now. Also, the dew points are low, generally in the 50s, and that makes it feel pretty comfortable out there. In fact, refreshing in some areas, and it looks like that's going to continue through most of the weekend. Rain chances are going to be low for the next 36 hours. We have to wait until Monday before we start to see this upper level low start to get a little bit closer to us and influence our weather by turning our winds around to the south and east, bringing up increasing moisture chances and also storm chances, especially as we go into Wednesday across the area. And some of the storms could be strong. In fact, looking at the forecast on the rainfall amounts, highest amounts are going to be up towards the north, with some areas could picking up around 3/4 of an inch, maybe an isolated inch, and lesser amounts further to the south. So we'll have to wait and see how that verifies. Temperatures today are going to be in the upper 80s and lower 90s, especially in southeastern Kansas under mostly fair skies. Then tonight, lows are going to be again in the 50s, especially to the north and east with those low dew points, 60s elsewhere. And then on Saturday afternoon, we're expecting highs again around 90 degrees and with southeasterly winds. Then on Sunday morning, lows will be in the mid-60s with increasing moisture. And then Sunday afternoon, maybe an isolated storm, but highs near 90. And then as we go into Monday morning, the south winds will really be cranking, so we'll see lows in the 70s. Over the next 7 days, we're going to look at temperatures in or around 90 degrees with a better chance of storms on Tuesday and Wednesday. And again, some of those could be strong. And then as we head into Thursday, storm chances start to decrease as temperatures stay in the upper 80s and lower 90s. Now let's go over to Caitlin with this morning's Health Watch.
Topping Health Watch this morning, falls are the leading cause of injury and injury-related death for people in the U.S. who are over the age of 65. The CDC analyzed data from 2020 and 2021 and found that about 14 million older adults reported falling in 2020, and around 100 died each day in 2021 due to a fall. The CDC says falls can be prevented, and healthcare providers can screen older adults for risk factors. A daily low dose of aspirin for people over the age of 65 is associated with a 15% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. According to a study to be presented at the annual meeting of the European Association for the Study of Diabetes, authors say the findings show there should be more research into anti-inflammatory medications like aspirin for diabetes prevention. Both due to the risk of bleeding, taking low doses of aspirin is only recommended for older adults for medical reasons like after a heart attack. And levels of inflammation in the blood before bariatric surgery affect how much weight gets lost after it. According to a study out of the UK, researchers looked at depression and inflammation in patients before their operations and found it was the inflammation that led to poorer weight loss outcomes. Scientists say the research could mean personalized treatments that involve lowering inflammation could help lead to better outcomes. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, Freeman Health hosts an event to prepare for worst-case scenarios before they happen.
And we have a great scenario shaping up for our area for the weekend. I'll have your complete forecast, including a look at Labor Day.
Plus, businesses in Thayer, Kansas worry that highway construction could turn into the road to a coast town.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning, 4 states, and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. The time now is 6:31 a.m. I'm Caitlin O'Shaughnessy.
And I'm meteorologist Sam Lane, standing in for Chris Warner this morning, who hopefully is enjoying his time off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people will be enjoying their time off on this Labor Day weekend.
Exactly. A big, long weekend shaping up across the area, and it looks like the weather's going to cooperate for the most part. We have some dry air over us this morning, but that dry air is allowing temperatures to fall down into the 50s and 60s and feel pretty comfortable out there. But as we go through the weekend into the early part of next week, this moisture over the southeastern United States is going to start migrating westward, and that means increasing humidities, but it also means a chance of precipitation, which we desperately need across the area. Today, though, we're going to stay dry with the UV index around 8 on the scale, which is high. So if you're going to be heading out today, make sure you have the hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, if you're going to be out for any length of time, generally around 20 to 25 minutes unprotected before you start to burn. And I know a lot of folks are suffering from allergies, and a lot of that is ragweed, including myself. And unfortunately, it's going to be high both today and tomorrow. Some chino pod thrown in there too, as well as nettle. And of course, allergies are going to be a concern as we go through the early part of September. This afternoon, we're expecting a high of 87 degrees with mostly sunny skies. Lunchtime temperature of 83 and around 86 degrees at 2 o'clock and 87 at 4 o'clock. If you are heading out to the lakes this weekend, here's a look at that. Elk City right now is about 4.5 feet below where it should be, so you might want to be careful there. Grand Lake is about a foot below normal right now, which is not too bad. And also over at Table Rock Lake, they're around 1.6 below. And Stockton, though, they're way below, about 4.5, almost 5 feet below where it should be, but still not too bad. All right, we'll have a complete look at the entire Labor Day forecast coming up in just a bit. Caitlin?
Thanks, Sam. Well, yesterday Freeman hosted a disaster seminar. The healthcare group recently hosted a similar session covering how to respond to a disaster, but yesterday's session focused on how to prepare for one.
So we're having to re-educate people to understand what could happen. And as we talked about Joplin, it's not just locally here, the tornado. They have used the lessons learned from Joplin all across the country and the world.
The seminar wrapped at 5 p.m. yesterday. The Jasper County Treatment Court yesterday helped raise awareness of a rising number of overdoses. They hosted a walk for the court's building to the Recovery Outreach Community Center.
There's so many overdoses that are happening today, and people don't realize what's in their drugs, what's being mixed in their drugs, and it's happening young kids all the way up to older, adults. And it's just something that the community needs to be aware of, and the importance of Narcan, of how it could save a life.
After the walk, the court hosted a training on how to use Narcan. The city of Joplin releases a study on pedestrian safety. The study found an average of more than 15 crashes involving pedestrians per year over the last 4 years. The study also found at least one fatality every year. It also included 3 categories for recommendation to reduce these numbers. And those are improved education, enforcement, and engineering. The Joplin City Council will vote on Tuesday whether to adopt the recommendations. We provided a link to the full study on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. And Joplin has chosen its next police chief. The city yesterday announced Rich Pearson will take the position. Pearson is currently captain of the Jefferson County Public School System Police Department in Louisville, Kentucky. He served 22 years in the Louisville Metro Police Department and taught in the Criminal Justice Department of Ivy Tech Community College in Spellersburg, Indiana. Pearson's first day on the job will be December 18th. And businesses from Thayer, Kansas are struggling with the impacts of road work. Some report losing up to 75% of their income. At the beginning of August, the Kansas Department of Transportation closed US 169 to traffic from Thayer south to US 40 to add passing lanes and replace the mainline pavement. Because of the construction, it takes longer for clients coming from other cities to get to the town. Students are also being affected, as many of them go to Cherryvale for high school.
We've definitely slowed down business-wise. I mean, throughout the whole town. It's just that with the highway shut down, I mean, we kind of expect that. It's a little harder to get to us, so.
There's times I go without a paycheck, so the other employees, we don't have to lay them off. That way they can provide.
With that, it should conclude on October 29th. This weekend is Thayer's homecoming weekend, and the city hopes the construction doesn't affect attendance at their biggest celebration of the year. Pittsburgh State University aims to attract more future healthcare workers by opening a hospital simulation. The $8 million facility was funded by private donors. Students will be able to perform various procedures on artificial patients, and the 10,000 square feet simulation hospital includes preparation rooms, waiting areas, and more environments to immerse students and prepare them for the real deal.
Last year, whenever there was kind of going on at the beginning, so it was really interesting to see it all happen last year and hear about it, and we were all super excited to be in one building instead of being in 5 different buildings and trying to figure out where to go every day.
Originally, the nursing school held about 65 students. Now it can accommodate 120. Pitt State football yesterday took on the Washburn Ichabods for their first game of the season. But before that, Gorilla fans got together for a tailgate party. Gorilla Fest featured bounce houses, balloons, face painting, live music, and food. The K-State program encourages students across the Sunflower State to leap into STEM studies. Project LEAPS, an acronym for Learning, Exploration, and Application for Prospective Engineering students, is a collaborative project. It's made possible by a U.S. Department of Defense grant for nearly $2.7 million. It'll benefit about 500 middle and high school students and 53 educators by the end of 2023. The project aims to help mentor and promote STEM degrees and careers to 7th through 12th grade students throughout the state. This is the second year of the grant. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. We have our very own Shannon Becker joining us in studio to tell us about his big 3 news stories of the week. Plus, Sam Lane returns with a look at your weather. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. Welcome back. We've got Shannon Becker in the studio with his big 3 news stories of the week. Good morning, Shannon.
Hello, friend.
Hello. So tell us, what do you got for us?
Big 3 live and local. What's happening where you live? It was yesterday, an exclusive story. We were there on the scene on Rachel Drive in Neosho, a home total loss. Neosho firefighters tell us as they arrived, fire was already coming through the roof of this 2-story home. It's at the end of a circle drive, just right off Highway 60, across a field, so a lot of people probably saw the flames and the smoke. They were on scene for about 2.5 hours. They still investigate what occurred. No one was injured in that fire. Number 2, live and local at a helicopter.
Oh.
Missouri State Highway Patrol last Friday evening, they did a, what do you call it, an aggressive traffic detail, targeting motorcycles that flee traffic stops and other people who create what you call dangerous situations for other drivers. One of the motorcycles tracked by the helicopter to a residence on South Minnesota became a standoff. They were there about 2.5 hours, K9 out, and then they had to break into the residence. The subject climbed into the ceiling, which is pretty typical in some of these situations. So they had to send the K9 up into the ceiling. Tyrell Harbin was arrested on numerous warrants. He's also facing felony resisting arrest charges also now. And then our number 1 story of the week, a Lamborghini crashes off I-44 last Saturday morning about 11 a.m. in a tragic crash. It went off the highway right around the Main Street exit eastbound, and then 500 feet later landed in the bottom of a ravine right at the steps almost of Mercy Hospital's emergency room. The driver was killed. The female passenger was released from the hospital earlier this week. Joplin police still investigate what occurred. High speeds are to blame, though, initially. And then our bonus story of the week, this one is a feel-good story. How about that? Dr. Grody from Joplin, he's been practicing pediatrics medicine since early 80s. In fact, 45 years now he's been here in Joplin. He makes balloon animals for all the kids. Look, there's this little girl here on the left when she began and when she ended. And then this is a mom and a son. Both were Dr. Grody patients at one time. Aww. 45 years, you're going to cover some generations, right?
Absolutely.
Big party reception on Wednesday. He is officially retired, so you can't call him at home and you can't even drop by the office anymore. You're going to have to have your charts transferred, and the office staff is there now and they're able to do that for you. So it's our big 3 in the bonus this week. KOAM News Now.
Shannon, a lot going on. I mean, you covered the whole spectrum there.
And there's a semi-crash right now on the interstate. If you're coming Oklahoma into Missouri, happened right around the Welcome Center. 2 tractor trailers and serious injuries to one of the tractor trailer drivers. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, please keep us updated on that, and we'll be sure to report all the latest updates. Thank you so much, Shannon, for coming in, and we'll talk with him a little bit later. Stay tuned after these messages. And it's time for the birthdays. We're going to start it off with Heidi Lloyd, who today turns 28 over in Columbus, Kansas. Happy birthday, Heidi.
And we have an anniversary, Lloyd and Vera Helwig over in Columbus, Kansas as well, celebrating their 62nd anniversary. And happy anniversary to you.
Absolutely. And happy 81st birthday to Tommy Ward.
And how about Natalie Storm turning 14 years old today over in Jasper? Happy birthday, Natalie Storm. How appropriate name there.
She should be a weather girl.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Charles and Brenda Parsons today are celebrating their 61st anniversary. Congratulations, you two. Hope you're enjoying yourselves over there in McCune, Kansas.
And Stella Smith turns 4 years old today in Oswego, Kansas. Love your mom, dad, and your 2 sisters.
And a happy birthday to Linda Bolander over in Parsons.
Also in Parsons, Ken Irvin has a birthday today. Happy birthday, Ken.
Taking it over to Oswego, Kansas. Happy 41st birthday to Jody Zwallen.
And Elwin and Karen Davis are celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary in Pittsburgh today. Happy anniversary to you both.
That's a great photo too.
That is a great photo.
And happy 11th birthday to Brooklyn Young.
And we have Clark Egbert in McCune celebrating a birthday today.
Happy 30th birthday to Brittany Akins in Iola, Kansas.
And the 2nd anniversary for Jim and Brittany Akins. Happy anniversary to
birthday
you both.
And an
I
anniversary.
know.
I like this girl. That way her husband will never ever forget these special
That's it. He
dates.
better
Smart
not.
lady. Taking it over to Thayer, Kansas. Happy 7th birthday to Brexton Thornton.
All right, and we have other birthdays here. We have Joshua Merrill turning 28 years old today.
And we have Steve and Sonia Dooley turning 39 over in Columbus. Happy birthday, you two.
And Jim Markin turning 62 from Chanute.
And we have Vicky Ulipch in Frontenac. Happy birthday.
And Matt Saporito turning 44 in Columbus, Kansas today. Happy birthday.
Yeah, we got a lot. These last 3 are all
Yeah.
Columbuses. So Daniel Clugston, happy birthday to you.
And Thomas Spence. A lot of Columbus birthdays today.
Absolutely, they're celebrating over there. And if you want to submit your birthdays and anniversaries, please send us an email to birthdays@koamnewsnow.com. Be sure to include a picture and any little messages that you want included.
And be sure to also sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club. You get discounts on various businesses and so forth, and you can, of course, do that at our website at koamnewsnow.com. All right, let's take a look at the weather. Right now, it is a beautiful morning shaping up across the area, including Seneca, Missouri, at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort with mostly fair skies. And that's going to allow temperatures to warm up this afternoon. Yesterday, we made it up into the upper 80s, and we'll be again this afternoon. And the low was 59. The averages are 87 and 65. So the average temperature is starting that downward trend as we head towards the fall equinox in late September. And we're about 10 inches behind on the rainfall so far. And looking at the radar, it's all clear this morning, and it's going to stay that way through most of the weekend. Temperatures this morning are very, very pleasant. 57 in Iola and in Fort Scott, 59 in Stockton and Lamar, a little bit warmer down to the south in Bentonville with our friends there with a temperature of 62. But the good news is the dew points are low across the entire area. And when you have dew points in the 50s, that makes it refreshing and just downright pleasant. And even though you have temperatures in the upper 80s and lower 90s, it doesn't feel really oppressive. One thing that we need improvement on is the drought situation. We still have the drought continuing, exceptional drought in Chautauqua, Elk, and parts of Montgomery counties. Also extreme drought in up towards the north in Cedar as well as Vernon counties. We desperately need some rainfall, and unfortunately none is to be had for the next 36 hours as rain chances are going to be pretty close to zero. However, as we go through the weekend, we're going to see this upper level low moving up closer to us, and as it does, our winds will turn around to the south and east, increasing our humidity and also increasing our moisture chances, especially as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday of the early part of next week. In fact, some areas could pick up around 3/4 of an inch of rain in some of the heavier showers, and that mainly will be up towards the north, but hopefully everyone will get a little bit of rain in the rain bucket early next week. But today, mostly fair with temperatures in the upper 80s and lower 90s. And then as we go into tonight, lows again in the 50s up to the north and east, 60s out towards the west. Then tomorrow afternoon, again, partly cloudy skies with highs near 90. And as we look over the next 7 days, we're going to see the rain chances start to increase as we head into Monday, a 20% chance. Better chance of storms on Tuesday and Wednesday with highs near 90. And then the rain chances decrease a little bit as we head towards the latter part of next week and next weekend. Coming up on the morning news, when we switch over to Fox 14, a video game set in the world of Dungeons and Dragons is now heading to the PlayStation.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Pittsburgh police are seeking a person of interest in a homicide which occurred earlier this month. On August 20th, law enforcement officers were dispatched to 202 North Locust Street in Pittsburgh in reference to a shooting outside of a bar. According to the report, Justin Krogan of Pittsburgh was found shot and later died of his injuries. Authorities have not publicly named the person of interest. And a fire swept through a home in Neosho, Missouri yesterday afternoon. The call came in at around 1:30 from the 1800 block of Rachel Drive. Flames had already breached the roof when responders arrived, and they say everyone was safely out of the house and no firefighters were injured. PSU campus police responded to an incident involving a firearm. The incident occurred last night near the intersection of Ford and Homer. Police say the aggressor and all victims are students at Pittsburgh State University. Authorities arrested the suspect near Carney Smith Stadium, but they have not yet filed formal charges in the case. And the trial will go forward for a Missouri man accused of shooting a Kansas City teenager on his front step. That's what the judge decided yesterday after hearing testimony and viewing evidence in the case during a hearing. Andrew Lester has pleaded not guilty to 2 felony assault charges. Lester is accused of shooting a 16-year-old Ralph Yarl in April when the teen knocked on the wrong door while trying to pick up his brothers. Yarl was shot twice in the head and arm, but he survived. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
All right, let's take a look at the forecast. You can see that as we head into this afternoon, we're going to see a high of around 87. And then most of Saturday and Sunday is going to be dry with temperatures in the lower 90s. Then the humidity increases as we go into Monday for your Labor Day with a 20% chance of storms, but a better chance of storms, I think, on Tuesday and Wednesday. And some of those storms could be strong, especially on Wednesday. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we're kind of heading into the fall severe weather season. And then as we go through the rest of the work weeks, rain chances start to decrease and temperatures start to increase just a little bit. But all in all, not a bad forecast, just a little bit above normal on our temperatures. But at least we're not seeing 100-degree temperatures with those god-awful dew points in the upper 70s and lower 80s like we had last week.
All right, well, thanks, Sam. It's shaping up to be a lovely Labor Day weekend.
That's right.
All right, well, you can switch on over to the Fox 14 with us, or you can stay tuned and we'll have Shannon Becker who will join us in studio. That'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you so much. Have a fun and safe Labor Day weekend.